Hey, what is up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of Index Card Insights. This is Cam Jennings. I'm your host, and I just want to say thanks for stopping by and checking out another episode. Look, first of all, before I get into today's episode, I want to tell you to make sure you get over to epicconversions.com. Check out my freebie I got over there. It's called 12 Secrets. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be taking it down at the end of the year. But for now, it's up there. And it's cool because it's going to give you 12 mind-blowing reveals on artificial intelligence. I don't mean like reveals like some kind of like, eureka moments or whatever. I mean, like, those are great. Nothing wrong with eureka moments. I'm talking about actual under the radar, like secrets and practical use, applications that you probably don't know about that'll probably help you. So make sure you get over there and get that. That's epicconversions.com. It's called 12 Secrets. Anyways, what are we talking about today? Today I want to talk about differentiation again. That's something I talk a lot about on this podcast lately. But I want to talk about differentiation, and I want to talk about knowing your market a little bit. These two things go together. It's tricky because on the one hand, you want to know your market. You want to know what they like, and you want to know what they need, and you want to know what they want, right? Most importantly, you want to know what they want. But you also have to find a way to stand out because you're not the only one who knows what they want. You got a bunch of people out there who know what they want. But how do you stand out from all these other people who know what they want? I mean, imagine if you had a group full of people and they all liked apples. They all like apples, right? And the problem is you're not the only person selling fruit. There's a bunch of other people selling fruit, and they all know that group of people likes apples too. Right? So now you all got apples for sale. How do you differentiate, right? So it's like a two-step thing. It's like know your market and then find a way to differentiate, right? While still simultaneously being appealing to your market. Now that's what I want to talk about today. But to do it, I want to talk about, like, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, in episode 10, I was talking about music. I was talking about the Smashing Pumpkins. And I thought, you know what? We're counting down from episode 100. We're counting all the way down to episode 1. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just do a stretch here where I talk about music stuff, right? Because I love music, guys. You might not know that about me because I know I don't talk about it tons, but I do. I'm a huge music fan. I'm a music lover. And I thought, I just do a stretch here where I really teach some marketing stuff through the lens of music. So that's what I want to do for several episodes. I got so many music stories that I've never told anybody in the marketing realm and the online business world, but maybe I will. I'm going to start telling you guys. Are going to have to let me know if you enjoy these stories I'm going to tell you about music. Anyways, what are we talking about today when it comes to music, and how are we going to pull this back around to, knowing your market and differentiation? All right. So I want to talk to you guys about Eminem today. All right. Eminem is a rapper. He's a white rapper, right? And I hate using the word white or using the word black to differentiate for people who have skills, but I think that's stupid personally. It doesn't really matter what color you are. But anyways, the point is we're going to use it for today because it's relevant. So it's funny, I've been listening to Eminem since he first came out, right? And the reason why is because when I was in high school, okay, first of all, I loved rock music, all right? I'm a huge rock and roll head. I love rock music. I love heavy metal music. But I was also really big into hip hop back in the day. Now, I was big into like rap music before Eminem came along, okay? Now, I can tell you, and I say this because I see a lot of, and the reason, let me give you some context. Let me go back a tiny bit. The reason why I wanted to talk about Eminem today is very simple. I am a music lover, and I listen to and I watch a lot of, people talking. I like music reviews, reaction videos on music albums and music songs and music tracks and stuff. I watch that stuff. I know maybe it's stupid, especially the reaction videos. For some reason, I enjoy watching other people react to music that I like, and I want to see the reaction. I don't know what it is that's interesting about that to me, but I do enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure. I like it. But anyways, what I noticed about Eminem when I see people reacting to Eminem, younger people really, people who weren't there when all this happened, when the Eminem thing happened, when Eminem came out and broke on the scene, these people weren't there. These are younger people reacting to Eminem and talking about their views on Eminem and stuff. They're not old enough to have been there though. And what I notice is a lot of them have the perception that like Eminem, like kind of like introduced a whole big white world to hip hop, right? And it's a really funny perception. Like the world is so tribalized right now. It's so freaking tribalized between black and white and Hispanic and whatever. It's so tribalized. People think that Eminem came on the scene and like introduced a whole bunch of white people to hip hop. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. That is not how it happened at all. By the time Eminem came on the scene, there was plenty of white people listening to hip hop. Hip hop was already very, very popular. There was several white artists before Eminem that people actually, that got airplay and people actually liked. For instance, the Beastie Boys came before Eminem. I had some Beastie Boys tapes. I had some Beastie Boys music. Third Bass came before Eminem. I bought Third Bass tapes. I had some Third Bass music. But it was beyond just white rappers, okay? We're talking about like when I was a kid, I had DOS Effects tapes, Straight Out the Sewer, They Want Effects, DOS Effects. I had Rappin' Forte, Players Club, who else did I have? Eazy-E, Snoop Dogg, The Chronic, Dr. Dre. Like, there was so much hip hop and rap music. Like, gangster rap was out in the 90s. That was early 90s when gangster rap was popular. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of white kids listening to rap music. Bone, Thugs in Harmony, all this stuff I was cranking on my tape player in my car. It was popular. It wasn't just me. Like there was this whole era of like where people like to have audio car systems in their car where it would be like bass heavy audio. I was part of that crowd too. I had the bass system in my car and stuff like that. And so what I'm saying is that, white suburbia or whatever you want to call it, there was plenty of white kids that were interested in rap music and hip hop way before Eminem came out. That's just the way it was. So what I'm saying is it wasn't nearly as tribalized back in the 90s. Like now you hear a lot about, there's just a lot going on, kind of like almost like self-segregation or something. It's really crazy, but it wasn't like that as much in the 90s. At least not the 90s I experienced. It wasn't like that. It was a lot more like just plenty of white kids listening to hip hop, okay? So anyways, why do I say that? Why do I bring all that up? I bring it all up because the question is, if Eminem, because of the color of his skin, did not introduce a whole bunch of white people to hip hop, and people were already interested in hip hop before Eminem came out, because I'm just rattling that off from memory. If I could go back in time and look at my old tape collection, I could rattle off a bunch more, but I just rattled those off from memory. So if a bunch of white people were already interested in hip hop and rap music before Eminem came out, why did he get so popular? Why did Eminem get so popular? Because Eminem eclipsed the popularity of Beastie Boys. He eclipsed the popularity of Third Bass. He eclipsed the popularity of Vanilla Ice. I know people laugh at Vanilla Ice and clown at Vanilla Ice, but for a minute there, Vanilla Ice was really popular. But why did Eminem become so much greater than all those people, right? Well, I'll tell you my opinion on it, and it's just an opinion. But I can tell you an opinion from someone who actually lived through that period and from someone who actually listened to hip hop music before Eminem came out. And I got to tell you something, I was not an anomaly. There was plenty of white kids listening to hip hop music before Eminem came out, right? He was just the next iteration in that. So why? All right, well, I'll tell you what, and I feel uniquely qualified to talk to you about this because I was listening to hip hop music before Eminem came out, and I listened to hip hop music after Eminem came out. And I was listening to the music that bridged the gap between rock and hip hop, people like Rage Against the Machine. Like, I was listening to Rage Against the Machine when I was in high school, right? So, like, it was an awesome time for music, but here's the point. Why did Eminem become so popular? Well, I'll tell you what I noticed as someone who listened to hip hop before Eminem came out and someone who listened to Eminem. I was there when he came out with the Slim Shady LP. I bought that LP. Hi, my name is my name. So why did he become so popular? Right? What was it about him that was different than all those other people? Right? I can tell you because I listened to all those other people. And let me preface this by saying I liked a lot of those other people. All right, I loved Third Base. I thought they were cool. I loved DOS Effects. I thought they were cool, man. I loved Doggy Style from Snoop Dogg, and I loved The Chronic from Dr. Dre. I listened to all those records, man. So, like, why did Eminem rise above all of that? Well, I don't know that I could answer this before when I was listening to all that music, but I can answer it now through the lens of a marketer. And what I will tell you is there's a couple things that Eminem brought to the table that those other rappers were not bringing to the table. All right. Number one, Eminem brought vulnerability to the table. Like, that wasn't something that was very popular in hip hop. I didn't listen to a lot of hip hop where people were being vulnerable on their records. They weren't being self-deprecating on their records. Eminem was being vulnerable and he was being self-deprecating. He was making fun of himself on his records. That's something different, right? Because back then, I think part of the reason people were drawn to rock music, the alternative rock music that was so popular when Eminem came out. You gotta remember something. When Eminem came out, alternative rock was very, very popular. Very, very popular. And, it had some self-deprecation to it. It had some vulnerability to it. Rock music's always been able to be vulnerable. That's one of the strengths of rock music, its ability to be vulnerable. As far as the lyrics are concerned. But with hip hop, at that time, it wasn't a strength of hip hop to be vulnerable, right? Eminem brought that to the table. We can look at his biggest hits, but I won't go into each song. But the point is, Eminem was bringing a new perspective to the hip hop, okay? He was bringing this vulnerability that no one had heard before, right? People hadn't heard the vulnerability aspect of it. They hadn't heard people like making fun of themselves in the music before, not in hip hop. You got to remember the hip hop that we were listening to back then, the popular hip hop was, gangster rap, and stuff that was talking about how awesome you are and how great you are and how nobody can mess with you because you're a bad dude, right? It was stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff we were listening to in the 90s. And then when Eminem came out in I think it was the late 90s, that vulnerability was different. It was different. So what I'm telling you is Eminem created differentiation, right? On top of the differentiation, he was really good at rapping, but you have to understand, the common person who listened to hip hop back then, I don't think they recognized those skills necessarily. Maybe real hip hop heads did, and I wouldn't consider myself a real hip hop head, as far as listening to cadences and you never heard anybody talk like that back then either. Now you hear music lovers talking about rap cadences and bars and this and that and the other stuff. You didn't hear people talking like that back then. I didn't. So I think that the average hip hop listener has gotten more savvy, more nuanced in what they listen to and what they think of it and how they break it down. and it's evolved. But the point is, Eminem was different at the time. He was different at the time because he was self-deprecating and he was vulnerable in his music, right? And I think those early Eminem records, the ones that people really seem to love now, they say they're classics now. In all those records, he moved between self-deprecating and he went into vulnerability. The other thing he brought to the table was humor. Now, I'm not going to say that no other rappers were putting humor in their music, because they were. The Beastie Boys was putting humor in their music as well. And there was other rappers I can point out that were putting humor in their music as well. But the point is, Eminem was combining a lot of things. He was combining self-deprecation. He was combining vulnerability. He was combining humor. He was putting a lot of things together in the lyrical content of his music. And I believe that's what really propelled him above a lot of other people. When people listened to his music, they felt like they knew that guy. It almost felt like he was telling you the story of what's been going on with his life. Back then, when you bought an Eminem record, you felt like you were going to hear what's been going on with Eminem. You're going to hear about it in the music, and anyways, the point is, and I've spent a long time talking about Eminem here on this podcast, but the point is, right, in my opinion, Eminem differentiated. It's something different now. Now people see Eminem as this icon, as this legend, right? So he approaches the game differently. You don't hear him self-deprecating as much. You don't hear him making fun of himself as much. Not quite as much. Now you hear him talking a lot more about, being the best there ever was. You see a lot more stunting from Eminem as far as his lyrical abilities, his cadences, the things he does as far as rapping. It's different now, but back then he stood out. I think he still stands out. He still finds a way to differentiate. But back then, especially, I think that's part of what blew him up. You could argue other things blew him up. The fact that he was, kind of vetted by Dr. Dre, and the fact that he was kind of put in there. But in my opinion, as someone who listened to hip hop before and during and after, I feel like one of the things that stood out from Eminem, one of the things that stood out was the fact that he was different, with that self-deprecating humor, with that vulnerability, right? So this is something you can also take a page out of, right? Eminem knew his market. Eminem stood out. He was different. Right? Now, there's a lot of other things he did. He took shots at big names, but you guys have seen other people take shots at big names since he's came, and it doesn't resonate like it did with him. The thing is, it's not about the exact thing that he did, right? It's about differentiation, right? So to me, how does this, let's circle this back around to marketing. One, know your market, all right? Eminem knew his market, right? And that market never experienced vulnerability and self-deprecation in rap music before. Not the way he did it, right? That was something different they'd never heard before. It resonated with a bunch of people who liked rock and roll music at the time that was very, very popular. Alternative rock was very, very popular when Eminem came on the scene. And it was full of vulnerability and self-deprecation, right? So, of course, the kind of music that he put out was going to appeal to all those people who loved grunge rock from the early 90s. Of course, it was going to appeal to all those people because they also liked hip hop, right? All those people from the 90s, my generation, Gen X, we liked hip hop and we liked rock and roll, right? So of course we would be interested in this vulnerable rap music, this self-deprecating rap music that also had humor in it, also didn't take itself too seriously. Of course we'd be interested in that, right? And we were, and it blew up. You can do the same thing in your marketing, okay? You got to find a way to stand out, right? Understand who your market is, and then find a way to appeal to them while simultaneously differentiating from all the other crap that's out there, right? And sometimes it's enough just to know that you have to do that, right? because a lot of people move forward blindly, just trying to model after other people, model after other people, model after other people. Look, man, there has to be a line somewhere where you stop modeling and start trying to stand out. And if you can't do that, then you're just going to be another face in a sea of faces, right? And that's it, right? So anyways, look, man, if you want to learn more about this stuff, get over to epicconversions.com, join my mentorship club, ECIC Group Calls. It's the ECIC Group Calls Club. You can find it at epicconversions.com, epicconversions.com, epicconversions.com. And while you're over there, make sure you grab your free copy of 12 Secrets. Peace, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.